City of Oviedo, downtown. Check 1, 2. Test 1, 2. This is Oviedo Downtown Master Plan Open House for 2040. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. I just heard me. I think so. Test 1, 2. This is Oviedo
Good afternoon. If you all take, yeah, you're ready to get started here.
Okay.
Okay. What is your name?
But I do have a.
What is your name?
Claudia.
Claudia. Okay, very good. So we're going to be starting from the left.
Huh?
All right? Very good.
Brian.
Oh, hold on. Brian's here. Let's see if he wants to make the introduction. Brian, how are you? Doing well. Do you want to make an introduction or you want me to go right into it? All right, perfect.
Your show.
All right, there you go. You done? Okay, we're good? We're on? Okay. Good afternoon, good evening. And welcome to the Old Downtown Master Plan Update Open House. My name is Javier Armana. I'm Director of Planning Services for the firm CPH. And it's a pleasure hosting this meeting that is a work in progress that we've been working on now for almost a year. And the purpose of the meeting, the open house, is to present our findings of this year-long process that sets forth the platform for the vision for the old downtown area. With me here tonight is Christina Height, who is principal in charge at Dix Height and Associates, one of our partners in the deal. From my staff from CPH, we have Ms. Lauren Harms. It's in the back, wave, there you go. One of the staff planners, and we'll be having other people join us shortly from the firm. How did we get here? And I neglected to mention another one of our partners, and that's the University of Florida Department of Landscape Architecture Implementation Studio of Fall 2019. How did we get here? CPH and Dix Height have been friends of the city for many, many years in the capacity of consultants. Dix Height was instrumental in designing where we are right now, this great gathering space. My firm, CPH, we've been involved in drainage, civil engineering aspects, some land planning and architecture aspects of the city. So back in July, August of last year, we received a call from Brian, our city manager, to see how we could potentially address the growing need to revisit the master plan for the downtown area, the old downtown, and inject some new blood. And it was Brian's idea, through our affiliation with the University of Florida, and my wife as well, incidentally, Chris is my wife, and how we could inject some energy and some ideas that have been untainted by the realities of life, the restrictions on budgets, roadway systems and such, and have those young minds participate in the design process and the visioning for this very critical space within the urban fabric of the city of Oviedo. So with that team, CPH, Dix Height, and the University of Florida Design Studio, Landscape Architecture, we signed a contract and we set up the stepping stones to get a plan, a vision plan, put in place to enhance what was done back in 2003. As far as what are the goals? The basic goals were basically, and when we talked to Brian, we talked to staff, and we talked to the major property owners within the old downtown study area. Those are and I believe one of the representatives is here tonight, of the major landowners. So we said, what is it that we want to do? What is it that you want to see as part of the future of Oviedo? And we looked at first the background information. A key aspect of this was what was done back in 2002. Back in 2002, another firm came up with a plan for the old downtown area that was anchored by two bookends. Let me see. where we're sitting right now, Oviedo on the Park, and anchored to the north by the old downtown. So the master plan, as it stands today, focuses mostly, and called for back in 2002, for heavy, intense, multi-use development at the north end, at the south end, the south bookend. And the north end wasn't necessarily neglected, but the energy was directed towards the south end. At that one time, conditions were different. Traffic trips were different. Development pressures were different. And the ability to house, there was no need, as it is today, to house residents and try to get away from Oviedo being the bedroom community to Orlando. So with all that basic information, we started going through tomes and tomes of information from the Regional Planning Council, from Seminole County, from the city as well. Tremendous amount of information that we started to analyze, to identify trends or lack of trends. We had boots on the ground. Last fall, September, October, we had the University of Florida students walking up and down the downtown, what we call the downtown right now, the Oviedo on the Park, and the North End, inventorying land, uses, identifying potential opportunities for enhancing the residential and commercial base, and how to go about doing it. Key is on understanding anything and putting forth a plan towards the future is understanding what has happened in the past, what is happening right now, and an anticipation of trends for the future. I mentioned transportation. What has happened in the last 13 years? We've had a tremendous increase in population, an increase of 61% in the population base within the city of Oviedo. We've had tremendous public... Within 9 years, yes, since 2002. So it's an 18-year increase, 61%. So what we've identified is also a tremendous increase in traffic patterns and transportation trips that has resulted in a tremendous amount of public investment from FDOT, Department of Transportation, from Seminole County, and from the city, from a transportation standpoint, but also from a drainage perspective. The city has invested over $5 million for the creation and the uplift of the stormwater pond on Geneva Drive. So those particular physical manifestations of growth, plus a public-private partnership between the major property owners and the city, sort of necessitated a need to come in and uplift the plan. And that particular document is a document that is known as the Geneva Drive Realignment Agreement that calls for special consideration for future development within that area itself. So I backtrack. So we have the existing conditions, past conditions. We have the development, the increase in population, plus the public-private partnership. And that's what got us across the finish line to start working on something, to update the plan. Not for the sake of updating the plan, but have a meaningful framework to move forward, to create a vibrant, village-type development within the downtown, old downtown core area that is walkable, sustainable, has a mix of uses, and it's pedestrianly connected to other parts, not only of the city itself, but also Seminole County. And we're at a crossroads, no pun intended. We have the Seminole Cross Trail. We have the another trail here, I forget the name of it. In any event, and plus we have major transportation systems here. So we are at a hub. We are at a unpolished gem relative to communication, to connectivity. And all those trips, all those people will be heading towards the old downtown to complement the energy that has been created on the south side. So what you see here is a condensed version of the study that we've conducted that is 65 pages plus We have, I believe, 18 slides for your evaluation. And what we're going to do is we're going to go from left to right, lightly touch upon each panel, and then we're going to have you folks come up and ask questions of each individual of whatever you would like to discuss relative to the panels themselves. So what we've done is we've gone through the dream stage, the investigation stage. What is it that we have? What is it we don't have? What opportunities do we have? Doing an inventory of existing conditions. What's out here? What are the potential impacts of the Geneva realignment and causing potential development opportunities? But a critical point in this plan is not just doing a design for, yeah, you can have multifamily units here, single family over here, mixed use over here. No, it's to create a plan that makes sense, and using the public realm as the catalyst for smart development. Public realm defines the areas that are available to the public outside certain property boundaries, where you have cars, you have pedestrians, you have open space, you have recreation opportunities. So in my years of practice, and I've been doing this for quite some time, it all boils down to one thing in city planning, is if you have a strong public realm, you will have quality development. It's a simple statement. And you can go to some great, fantastic public realms throughout the United States. Miami, Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, even Orlando and Sanford have varying degrees of very strong public realm that has manifested in strong growth, smart growth, and an increase in the tax base without the expense of other things that need to be looked at. So as we walk through these boards, ideation, it's one of these planning terms and design terms. But basic ideation is the creative process of identifying and developing ideas and projects. So after we went through the basic evaluation of existing conditions, we go into the ideation, where we analyze and come up with ideas. And no idea is out of line or out of control. That's where the students came in with some ideas that we had no idea that could be feasible in some of this stuff here. So those ideas are manifested and replicated and shown here, and we would call the Ideation and Opportunities Board. This particular board identifies potential opportunities for enhancing the North End. And as we go through individual board evaluation, you all can ask some questions. But now I'd like to turn it over to Chris, and she can address some of the issues relative to the ideation and the opportunities that we put forth. Oh, yes.
Sure. Hey, I'm Chris. I'm a founding partner at Dix Height Plus Partners. And we kind of stick to our knitting. You know, we're landscape architects, and we have a lot of focus on placemaking and green infrastructure. And the cool thing about Uptown, as we're fondly calling it, and the realignment of Geneva is all of a sudden it starts to sit. Yes? I can, sure. All of a sudden, the cool thing about Uptown Oviedo, some of the improvements that have been happening over the years, and the Geneva Drive realignment, is all those things coming together, not to mention Solary Park, which is going to be amazing, and the realignment of Sweetwater Creek. All of those things together start to create the framework for a really great place, a really great village, a great village node. And Javier mentioned the importance of public realm. Each of the things that are being focused on are public realm. The realignment of a road is public realm. The redoing of a park is public realm. And as landscape architects and planners, that's generally what we think about and what we contemplate. So this particular board, like Javier mentioned, the Ideation and Opportunities Board, starts to speak to some of those opportunities. So the green lines that you see, you have Cross Seminole Trail here that goes all the way to Winter Park. You have Cross Seminole Trail here. They kind of come and they meet, but right now they don't connect. You know, you're riding your bike down and you get to Oviedo and, oh my gosh, you want to go to the Townhouse restaurant, and it's kind of hard to get there. This board shows how those connections might start to be made. Additionally, if you're coming down the Seminole Trail right now, it's kind of tough to continue down to Oviedo on the Park. You know, if you're on a long ride and you want to go to Starbucks and get a coffee, well, this board identifies the potential for some of those connections. Additionally, the other cool thing that's going on is you have the old post office site. It starts to be, in this little rectangle, a beautiful potential square. And there's a lot of opportunity there. It hasn't been determined what it might be, but it could be a wonderful open space that complements Solary Park. The old Lawton House could be moved there. The post office could be reimagined. There's a number of things that could happen. But it starts to become a wonderful civic public center. Additionally, there's really cool ideas for pedestrian connectivity through the wetland strand down to Oviedo on the Park. That's been talked about. The improvements of Broadway and Central, you're starting to see those happening. Folks are working really hard to make from the, you know, it's going to handle traffic a lot better, but from the back of curb to the building edge, folks are really working hard to make it such that those edges are pretty comfortable for the pedestrian. It's challenging, it's an FDOT roadway, but there's a lot of work that's being done to try to coordinate that to make it as good as it can be. Additionally, Geneva Drive. So anyway, lots of ideas here. Before I jump to Geneva Drive, one thing that we looked at in this board here is once we kind of looked at all the ideation, we then looked at all of the pieces and parts of the public realm. In the overall 65-page document, you can go and you can take a look at each of the cross sections for each of the roadways, where we define what it feels like and looks like from what I call the build-to line, the building face to building face. Okay? We define building setbacks, we define widths of sidewalks, we define where canopy trees might go, how that all of a sudden becomes a great street. We also define pretty cool opportunities for major connections between Solary, down Geneva Drive, and to these parcels and blocks south of Broadway. I mentioned before that, you know, all of the pieces and parts, and especially the Geneva Drive alignment, start to set up a great place. The other reason it sets up a great place is because it creates blocks that can actually be built on and be built on nicely. Before, Geneva had this, went kind of straight and was, I mean, it had this funky angle to it. That's really hard to develop a nice buildable block. If you think about all of the classic cities in the New World and the Old World, the most sustainable cities have really nice buildable blocks that over time can evolve. And most of the time, those buildable blocks are about 450 feet long by 300 feet wide. Well, our blocks are starting to take that shape. So here you have a nice cross east-west street. You have the existing FDOT roadways. You have Oviedo Boulevard that exists, and now you have Geneva that comes through. So we're creating these really great potential buildable blocks. So I mentioned the fact that we had studied public realm, and we studied all of those roadways. On this board, we really want to emphasize, this is one thing that UF was really keen on, we really wanted to emphasize the green connections, you know, the places where people will ride and walk and bike. So the connections of the Cross Seminole Trail, the potential for the civic use at the old post office site, the green, the stream connection, the realignment of Sweetwater Creek, the boardwalk connection to Oviedo on the park where we're standing now, potential public art zones at nodes. So really trying to create wonderful public realm. We also looked at the potential yields within the new block framework. You know, what is allowed in the current zoning, and then what might be allowed and what we're recommending for future levels of density. So that's on this board. This board is an example of a typical street cross-section. I talked about examining building line to building line and a typical right-of-way. This is our recommendation for Geneva itself. The document includes recommendations for each of the street hierarchies within the study area. But you can see it includes street trees, which will over time provide a lot of shade. Plenty of room for street trees. Street trees need room to grow, so we're showing 8 feet recommended there. Plenty of room for pedestrians, a nice wide, 14-foot wide sidewalk that's occasionally interrupted by a smaller tree. So a really nice potential future environment. And then we talk about next steps. You know, all of these recommendations are being passed off to the folks that are really good at modifying comprehensive plans, and that's underway now. So all of these considerations and recommendations will be taken into account as plans for the area move forward. These are simply recommendations, and then you know that'll be determined by you all as things move forward. Did you want to talk about the master plan? I'm going to turn over the technical part to Javier.
Thanks, Chris. Yep. Let me address what this process as this document is and what it's not. It is not a rezoning. It is not a land use change. It's not a special plan for the property owners, major stakeholders. What it is a vision plan that sets forth a platform for the city to consider as the city is conducting a redo of their comprehensive plan. These are merely recommendations. And as far as recommendations are concerned, under the next steps section of the document, we touch upon the normative side. By normative, I mean regulations that are critical in implementation of any plan. So we address changing or suggested changes to the Land Development Code relative to design standards. We address the issue of density, setbacks, buffers, purely as a recommendation. This is the beginning of a very long process whereby staff, in conjunction with the elected officials, will make a determination as to what's best for this area. We also then go into special projects. We identify things such as with increase in densities potentially in that area, what will that require? It will require studies for capacity relative to water and sewer. It will require studies relative to stormwater. Is the area, that particular study area, does it have capacity to accept more surface coverage of buildings and pavement? So we annotate and we bring up those specific recommendations as to how to move forward, because not only we have a design-based approach to the plan itself, but we'll also back it up with normative side regulations and special projects, and that need to be studied to identify the fiscal implications of doing increasing densities, to be borne by the city, to be borne by the developers, and to be part of a public-private partnership. And that's how smart occurs, smart growth. As far as the plan itself, we have we'll put these side by side. Yeah, thanks. This is from the 2003 Downtown Master Plan. What we're seeking to upgrade is the plan for this area right here, which is blown up here. We have a series of mixed-use pods, Old Town Core, Historic Village, and based on our analysis and our collective analysis, we recommend that this particular master plan graphic be adopted as the latest master plan for the downtown, the uptown area. And this, along with the next steps and the recommendations that we're making forth, we'll tee it up. We'll tee it up for other folks to come in and start evaluating how that's going to fit into the comprehensive plan, how it's going to become part of your next wave of smart growth. So I know this is a lot of information to absorb, but the next portion of the show, so to speak, is for you all to kick the tires, so to speak. And Chris and I here, we're available to answer any questions. So thank you for your patience and your attention. There's a lot to absorb. And we'll take questions. I'm not sure we'll have the right answers, but we'll attempt to respond to those. So thank you so much.